Hello and welcome back. This is video number 6 and we're going to dive into the Facebook pixel and talk about the different variables and settings, which according to Facebook is also known as standard events. Basically all that means is that you're going to have a different code or different keyword for different scenarios. So we're taking a look right now at a standard Facebook pixel. Now I've blurred out or put X's in the area of my Facebook pixel ID. So you know that this is going to be your Facebook pixel ID. Now, if you go to facebook.com and you look for their standard events, you're going to see a list of different event codes. So you can see add to cart. This can track anytime somebody adds an item to the cart. So if you're selling maybe physical items or e-commerce or even digital items and they add it to the cart, you want to use the standard event code here. And what that means is you are going to take this code and put it in your pixel code, and then you're going to put that code on that page. You have another one called add payment info. This tracks when the payment information is added in the checkout flow. So you're going to add that to that specific page. Now, some of these will relate to you, some of them will not. So you can see complete registration. This is great for if somebody is trying to fill out a form and you're trying to get them to fill that form out and you want to track, did they fill that form or not? If they didn't, then this code would not be triggered. If they did, then of course they would land on the page after they fill out the form, and you would put that code on that page. We can see contact, which is if they went to a contact page and they contacted you, you could put that on the code and on that specific page. So as you can see, there are tons and tons of different standard events that relate to different actions. So we have donate, we have find location, we have initiate checkout, we have lead. Lead is whenever somebody signs up on your email list. Or they could be a form submission. They could sign up for a trial. They could land on a specific page where you would deem them to be a lead. And you would use that code right here. And then we have purchase. They also have a code for that and a value. So if you're using USD in the United States of America, and you would put the number here. So if it was $47, you would put 47.00 USD. If you were not using USD and you were using your own country's money symbol here, it could be Canadian, it could be AUS for Australia, you could put that here. And then we have schedule, we have search, we have start trial, we have submit application, we have subscribe, we have view content. So view content could simply mean they're viewing a special piece of content. So it could be something like the blog post, right? So we could send them to the blog post. You would make sure that the pixel code has this specific code in it. So why don't we go back to the pixel code and let me show you what you need to do. So let's say, for example, view content. So you're going to highlight this, click copy, and then you're going to go back to the pixel code here. And the only item that you want to change is this item here. So where it says FBQ, parentheses, track, comma, page view, we're going to remove that. And then we're going to put that here. So in this case, it's view content and page view is going to be removed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this code and put it on the special piece of content page where we want to track it. Now, if it's a lead, we simply remove this and type lead. Now, when you run your Facebook ad campaign, what's going to happen is in the campaign, you'll see these keywords. So you can also put your own keyword as well. And it's going to tell you the keywords, how many people visited it, and all that. And you yourself will know, okay, so this many people out of 100 people came, 10 people, 10% became a lead. So you'll see leads 10. And that will give you an idea of what is actually converting. So let's do something else. Let's go back up here and let's do purchase. So we're going to copy this. We're going to go back here. And instead of a lead, we're going to copy and paste this here. This is track purchase value. Let's say it's $47, and that's all you need to do. And you're going to need to take this piece of code and put it on the page that they see after they purchase. So whatever page that they are sent to or redirected to immediately, you need to put that piece of code on that page. Now, let's say, for example, that we have a funnel and the funnel is an opt-in page. So in that case, the opt-in page is going to have a pixel code, and the track will be something like this. So the opt-in page could be a page view or view content, and then the next page after that, if they subscribe, could be a lead. So throughout your funnel, you have different steps, you have different pages, and on those different pages, you'll have different pixel codes. Now, while that might seem a little bit complex right now, it really isn't. It's a matter of just changing the keyword and putting the code on the right page. And then, of course, using the Facebook Pixel Helper Google Chrome extension to go back to the page, make sure that pixel is on the page, and it'll tell you if the pixel is on the page and specifically what it is. So if it's a lead, it'll show a lead. If it's a purchase, it'll show a purchase. And it really is quite easy once you get the hang of it. So with that said, let's move on to the next video. Hello and welcome back. This particular video is video number 4, and we're going to focus on the Facebook Pixel. So we briefly talked about that earlier, but before we dive in, I want to say that you will need to have a Facebook business account. So to do that, you'll need to go to business.facebook.com. That's business.facebook.com. You'll need to create an account so that Facebook knows that you have access to certain ad accounts. So with a business Facebook account, you are able to not only access your own account, but you'll also be able to access anyone else who gives you permissions to do so. Now, as far as the pixel goes, once you have created an account, what you'll need to do is up at the top, you'll see this events manager, and you'll see this / icon. You'll click on that, and then you'll click on the all tools down here, and then you'll click on pixels right here. Now, bear in mind that Facebook oftentimes will change around their user interface. So if it doesn't look exactly like this, then look around and you'll likely find the pixels. Now, like I said, Facebook changes their user interface a lot, sometimes every month, sometimes very frequently. So just keep that in mind. So what you need to do is simply go to pixels right here, and then you'll land on this specific page. Now, as I briefly mentioned earlier, a Facebook pixel is merely a piece of code that you put on your website. And we'll talk more about how to add that to your website, what are best practices, and all of that. But basically all you need to know is the Facebook pixel is a very powerful piece of code that allows Facebook not only to see who visits your website, who converts into a sale, who converts into an email opt-in lead, who perhaps fills out a form, and more. It also collects a lot of data about the visitor, who they are, what sites they visit, and a lot more data. In fact, Facebook in itself has so much data that as far as being an advertiser, it enables you to reach more people that are actually interested in what you have to offer. So that's basically what a pixel is. And to set it up, all you have to do is go to this page, click on Setup here, and it'll give you different options. So you can either click this here to manually install the code yourself, and it'll basically give you a piece of code that you will install. Or as you can see here, it says Facebook Pixel currently integrates with these platforms here. So you can click that and it'll allow you to add it to these locations here. And if you are not a web developer and you have a web developer and you prefer to send that information to them, then you can click email instructions to the developer. Now, we're going to talk more about this in the next video on how to get the code, how to add that code to your website. If you're using a WordPress website, what kind of WordPress plugins should you use? And we'll talk more about that in the next video. Hello and welcome back. This is video number 2. And in this specific video, we're going to show you a bird's eye view of how Facebook retargeting works. So you may have a general idea of how Facebook retargeting works, but my goal here is to kind of give you a visual mind map of how all the pieces connect together. Because if I jump in and start showing you to do this, to do that, and I don't explain what things are and why things are important, I know that you will get confused, and I don't want to overwhelm you, so that's the goal here. So let's dive in. Obviously, this is going to be the visitor, and the visitor comes to a website, a landing page, whatever page that you want. Let's say that it is a blog post, and it could be a specific blog post. It doesn't matter. So they visit this blog post, and on the blog post, in order for us to know that they visited the blog post, there's going to need to be a piece of code. And that piece of code is called a Facebook pixel. Now, I'm not going to talk about that right now, but all you need to know is that the Facebook pixel tracks them. I'm going to talk briefly about the Facebook pixel later on because it can get kind of technical. So all you need to know right now is a piece of code that tracks them. It lets us know that they have visited this particular blog post. Now, bear in mind that if you want to learn how to set things up with different scenarios, what do you do with an opt-in page? Or what do you do when you're trying to get somebody to fill out a form? Or what do you do when you're trying to sell a product? Well, I'm going to talk about different real-life examples in the next video. All right, so just keep that in mind. Let's just talk about the basics. Okay, so from this point, let's say it's a blog post, and maybe in this situation, what we want to do is whenever somebody visits this particular blog post, we want to create an audience specifically for this. All right, so whenever somebody visits here, they are going to have the Facebook pixel there, and then this visitor essentially will be added on this part to a custom audience. All right. And don't worry, we're going to explain all of this later on. Now, this custom audience is going to allow us to say, okay, anybody who visits this page is now added to this audience here. Now, why do you need an audience? Well, you need an audience because when it comes to trying to put ads up, so let's put this up. Let's do a Facebook ad. We have to find a way to show this ad to this audience. So obviously from the custom audience here in the Facebook ad here, directionally, we are going to show the Facebook ad to anyone who visited this blog post. So this is a very, very basic Facebook retargeting. So let me repeat this. Let's do a recap. A visitor comes to the blog post, and this piece of code is just happens to be on this blog post, which will allow us to know, okay, this person visited it and they're segmented into this audience, and therefore we then show them Facebook ads on Facebook to this custom audience. So that is a very, very basic scenario. Now, it can get a little bit more tedious if you add more things like email opt-ins or everything else like that. But I just want to start with the basics. We'll talk about more about real life examples in the next video. Now, what you will need to learn is the Facebook pixel, how to use it, how to set up different things like triggers, different ways to work with variables. And the Facebook pixel is just more than a piece of code. It can track when somebody visits a page. It can track when somebody buys a product. It can track when somebody opts in. So in other words, if you want to know if a conversion happened, then you will need the Facebook pixel again. So the Facebook pixel is essentially a piece of code that is on your whole website, and based upon where they land, where they convert, it is all recorded. So we'll talk more about that later on, but let's move on to the next video, and I'm going to give you some real life examples and real life scenarios. We're going to show you different mind maps for different scenarios so that you have an idea of kind of how things work.